And so yes, a lot of people know the word karma. And it's interesting. At its base, the word karma just means action, just on its own. But as we've already discussed, there's karmic, you're not the boss of me, I live as I want to. And there's karma kanda, okay, I'll give so I could get. But what most people think about when they hear the word karma is actually what's called the law of karma. And the best way I can ever think of describing it comes from a rather brilliant writer whose name is Charles Dickens. Now, I know in the States and certainly in the UK, Charles Dickens' masterpiece, The Christmas Carol, is very well done. So other areas of the world you may not know, but it is a very small text, so I do recommend that you read it. But in it, this very miserly, one could really use the word miserable, miserable person named Ebenezer Scrooge on Christmas Eve is visited by these ghosts. And the first of these ghosts is his business partner that's been dead, I believe it's 7 years, called Jacob Marley. And the entrance of Jacob Marley, I've seen so many versions of this and read it so many times, is spectacular. It said the first Scrooge hears a thunk and a thunk and a thunk. And Jacob Marley comes up these stairs and he's chained. He's chains all around him, and these chains are wrapped around old-fashioned money boxes. And it's torturous, and he can only move very slowly as he comes thunking up the stairs towards Ebenezer Scrooge. And at a certain point, Ebenezer Scrooge asks the question that we would all want to ask. He goes, what's the deal? Doesn't say what the deal, but you know what I mean. He says, what is up with all the chains? And Marley replies, he goes, I wear the chains I bore in life. I made them link by link and yard by yard. Yours was twice as long as when I saw it last, Ebenezer. That chain, that thing that Marley is dragging around could well be a really good explanation for the law of karma. We've all heard it. That which you do comes back to you. It's like a ball bouncing. The ball bounces, I go back, it goes, it comes back. And so in a certain way, it would seem that it's very simple. But as one of my teachers says, the premise of the law of karma is simple, but its application is very complex and sophisticated. Yeah. So we come into this life remembering that from a yogic perspective, we are eternal, right? Going back to the very first class that I have with you guys, right? Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, never was there a time that you did not exist, nor me, then all these kings, no, never was there a time that you ceased to be. And so in all those lifetimes, in that lifeline that goes with no beginning and no ending, every action that we do creates karma that we then carry with us. The other analogy I like is like a backpack into our next life. And here's the thing about karma. I remember the first time I taught a class like this. It was in person, and a person said, oh, that's not fair. Every action has a reaction. And I said, honey, no. That's the thing about the law of karma. It is fair. Because there is no, from a karmic perspective, there is no getting away with anything. Now, because we are eternal, right, it's not as simple as I get slapped and somebody slapped me back, right? That, how the karma is doled out is above our pay grade. That comes from the divine energy. But from a yoga perspective, it is to be known that everything we do, both good and bad, has a reaction. And through time, this lifetime, next lifetime, 50 lifetimes ago, 1,000 lifetimes ago, it's like doing actions like dropping a seed that will fructify, to use the fancy word they use in yogic terminology, and will bloom and grow. Who we are, the life we are living right now, for good and bad, comes from our past actions. Yeah? And so it's a liken sometimes to, on a farm, there's a silo, right? And they fill it up with grain. So say that a farmer, for many, many years, has really good crops. So they fill up that silo with really, really, really good crops. And as times they take out the grain, and so the good grain goes down and down and down. And then unfortunately, as does seem to be the thing that happened, there's a drought or the crops aren't as good. And so now they're putting the not so good crops on the top. But as the good grain goes out, the bad grain or not so good grain comes to the bottom. This is us. When we come into the life with a backpack or the chains like Jacob Marley, we are burning off that karma, both bad and good. And sometimes in circumstances, we look like we're burning through the bad, and sometimes it looks like we're burning through the good. I often joke, it's like, I must have did something really good in my last lifetimes, because my life has been pretty awesome, right? And I just hope that I'm not burning through all of my good karma and leaving me only with the bad grain. Because here's the thing, and here's a wonderful analogy of this burning through aspect of karma. Say that you somehow, because in the United States of America, there are two Portlands. One is in Portland, Maine. One is in Portland, Oregon. They're two vastly different places. This could never happen, but say somehow you thought you were getting on a plane to Portland, Maine, and you landed on a plane to Portland, Oregon. For me, Portland, Maine would be a really quick flight. Portland, Oregon's very far away. So say somehow you're on that plane. You can't get off. It's in the air. It's done. So you do have a choice. You do have a choice now. You can either freak out, scream, and let the air marshals put you in cuff and you get on some sort of no-fly list, or you sit down, you read the magazine, you watch the movie, and you think, how did I get here? How did I make this mistake? And what am I going to do when I get off? When we do something, the karmic seed has been dropped. We're in the airplane. It's done. The karmic reaction's coming. But we still have a choice. And that's the good news about yoga. We always have a choice about how we react. Because going back several lessons, because where do we experience everything? It's in our mind. Our mind is not the boss of us. We are the boss of it, right? And so we have a decision to make. And the decision is, do I want to create more bad karma in terms of the plane, to want to freak out and get myself into more trouble? Or do I want to say, this has come to me. Let me learn a lesson. Let me figure out how I got myself into this predicament, and what will I do when I get off? How will I further that from not happening again? Because here's the thing about karma. Karma, in a way, we say good karma, bad karma, but karma is neither good nor bad. Karma just is. The best analogy for this is your GPS, or your Google Map, or your Waze, or whatever device you use, because we don't read maps anymore. I don't know how people explained this before they had a map, before they had GPS. The map analogy doesn't work. But anyway, if you're following your navigational device, right, and you turn right, what does it say? Recalculating. And it will shift you. And if you turn away, it'll recalculating, go the other way as well. That is what karma is. It is just trying to correct you so you go back on course instead of flowing out there to the prakriti, the material, the temporary, to turn you around and keep going into the spiritual, the eternal. And so sometimes, like in a GPS, like I remember the first time I had one, and my husband and I, we intentionally disobeyed it. We turned right and instead of turning left like it told us to do. And it put us on this bumpy road, this gravel road, and it was night. And we're like, oh my God, where is this going? We're bumping around. And sure enough, though, we came to a smooth road. Sometimes the law of karma will give us a bumpy road, because that might be the best way for us to learn something. And sometimes it'll be a smooth road, because that might be the way is best for us to learn things. So again, going back to what I said, the concept of it, we'll see simple. What you do comes back to you. But the application is very complex. So we can't look at our lives or look at somebody else's life and label something bad or good. We can only really use every circumstance to think, how can this teach me? How can I use this karmic gift that I've been given to develop myself. And when I talk about myself, I mean myself as the soul, and not myself as the very temporary body and mind. So that's the meditation today. That's the takeaway, right? When I look at my life and what this backpack of karma has brought me, have I been able to find the lessons? Have I been able to sit on the plane, to use that analogy, and watch the movie and tolerate and think, how did I get here? And what can I do? And in that way, we can see that karma is neither good nor bad, and that everything in life is, to quote my teacher, His Holiness Danyadhar Swami, life is not about what happens to me, life is happening for me. The law of karma is happening for us. It's an autocorrect. It is not the vice principal of the universe putting you in a timeout or sentencing you to detention. So in my life, can I look at the things in my life and see the lessons in it, and see the karmic imprint of it, and strive to tolerate what's not so good, so I'm not planting more bad seeds. And so ultimately, I can use every lesson in my life to grow. So thank you so much for listening. The light that is within me bows down to the light I see within you. Namaste.